Welcome to The Explainer. So today we're going to look past all those wild price predictions for Bitcoin. We're going to ask a much bigger, more fundamental question. The idea we're exploring is this. In a world that's, well, facing some pretty serious challenges, what if Bitcoin isn't just a good investment? What if it's actually becoming a necessary one?
Okay, but let's not get too far ahead of ourselves just yet. Because, the number that is just dominating every conversation as we kick off 2026, it's a big one, $250,000. I mean, that is a bold call, right? And it is absolutely setting the tone for the entire year.
You've got analysts like Tom Lee kicking off the year with these just incredibly bullish price targets for Bitcoin. But you have to ask yourself, is the price tag really the whole story here? Or is it maybe just a shiny object, a distraction from something way, way more important?
So to really get the bigger picture, we first have to understand why there's so much optimism in the market right now. I mean, what's behind it? Well, a lot of really influential voices are pointing to what they're calling a perfect storm of factors, all brewing for Bitcoin this year. And that's what's pushing these huge price targets right into the mainstream conversation.
All right, so what's fueling this fire? Well, let's break it down. First, you've got major players like Tom Lee calling for a $250,000 Bitcoin. That's huge. Then, Bill Miller IV points out that regulatory clarity is getting better, which is basically a massive green light for all those big institutional investors. And get this, we're seeing Wall Street giants, the same ones who used to laugh at crypto, now they're jumping in with both feet, building their own blockchain products. You add all that to the highest global money supply growth we've seen since 2020, and yeah, you can totally see why the bulls are running.
But okay, let's just hit pause on all that for a second. Let's pivot. Because beyond all the charts, beyond the predictions, there's a much, much deeper question we need to be asking. See, the most compelling arguments for Bitcoin, they have absolutely nothing to do with its price. Nope. They have everything to do with necessity.
So here's the core thesis, right? The idea is that we're seeing this series of escalating failures in our traditional systems. We're talking everything from physical security all the way up to institutional trust. And these failures, they're going to ultimately reveal the absolute need for a totally new kind of asset, an asset that exists completely outside of those broken systems.
And to really drive this point home, let's start with a story. And I'm telling you, this sounds like it's ripped straight from a Hollywood blockbuster, but it is 100% real. And it perfectly highlights our first major point, the complete illusion of physical security.
So picture this, Germany. The Sparkasse Bank, a team of incredibly bold thieves, pulls off a heist for the ages. Over the holidays, they literally drill through a concrete wall and just systematically empty 3,000 safe deposit boxes. Can you imagine? We're talking cash, gold, heirlooms, the life savings of thousands and thousands of people. All of it just gone in a matter of hours. And the craziest part of all, nobody even knew what happened for 2 whole days.
Okay, but here's where the story goes from a crazy heist to just absolutely devastating. The victims, they find out their insurance only covers a tiny, tiny fraction of what they lost. Just 10,000 euros per box. That's it. Everything else, poof, gone forever. I mean, it's just a brutal reminder of what happens when the very system you trust to protect your most valuable things fails you.
And this, right here, is where the whole argument for digital property rights just snaps into focus. Think about it. On one side, you've got a bank vault. You have to trust a third party, it's vulnerable to someone with a big enough drill, and the insurance is a joke. On the other side, you have Bitcoin. You control the keys. It's secured by global cryptography, not a concrete wall. You have full custody of your assets, and you can access them 24/7 from anywhere in the world. I mean, when you see a physical security failure this massive, this spectacular, that alternative starts to look pretty darn compelling, doesn't it?
But listen, this breakdown of trust, it doesn't just stop at physical security. Not even close. It goes much, much deeper, extending to our larger institutions. This isn't just about a couple of thieves breaking into a vault anymore. This is about the very systems we're all supposed to rely on, just kind of rotting from the inside out.
So let's take a look at the problem of large-scale fraud. For example, there's this massive case of alleged fraud happening in the United States. And when I say massive, I mean we are talking about the misuse of public funds on a scale that is, it's just almost impossible to even wrap your head around.
So up in Minnesota, one local expert is calling an ongoing fraud scheme, get this, one of the largest in human history. The estimates are ranging from $80 to $100
billion. Misappropriated, that's billion with a B. It's just staggering. Now, the key takeaway here, the really crucial point, is that this level of institutional corruption just completely shatters public faith. I mean, when you see your hard-earned tax dollars just vanishing into a black hole of fraud, well, you're naturally going to start looking for an alternative you can actually trust, right? Something like a transparent public ledger that anyone can check for themselves, right?
And this crisis of trust isn't just about money. It bleeds over into our digital lives, too. We're seeing governments trying to control what their own citizens can say and do online. They're leveraging their power over all the traditional networks and platforms to do it.
And look, this isn't some hypothetical what-if scenario. This is real. The executive director of the Ugandan Commission of Communications came right out and issued this chilling threat to citizens. He said, and I'm quoting here, "We're going to be able to control it, and you're going to get in trouble if you use these sorts of technologies." I mean, wow, it's just such a stark reminder of the raw power of centralized control and censorship.
And you know who responded to that threat? Twitter co-founder Jack Dorsey. And his response was perfect. Just one single word. Interesting. And that one word, it just perfectly captures the fundamental conflict that's playing out all over the world right now. It's the battle between closed, controlled, centralized systems and the open, permissionless, decentralized networks that challenge.
All right, so let's zoom out for a second and look at the big picture here. All of these examples we've talked about, the insane bank heist, the massive government fraud, the threats of censorship, they're not separate stories. They're all pieces of a much larger puzzle, and they are all pointing in the exact same direction. Because as these foundational pillars of trust in our old-school traditional systems continue to crumble, the need for something different becomes really, really clear. The need for a decentralized, open-source, censorship-resistant network like Bitcoin, it goes from being interesting to being undeniable. It stops being just a speculative bet and starts becoming a vital tool for preserving your wealth and your freedom.
So, at the end of the day, the real takeaway here isn't about those crazy money-go-up price predictions we started with. It's about this growing realization that Bitcoin represents something else entirely. It's a parallel financial system, it's an escape hatch, it's an independent asset for a world that, let's be honest, might be facing some pretty serious social unrest and institutional decay.
And that really just leaves us with one final and I think pretty provocative question to think about. Are people buying Bitcoin just to get rich quick as the price skyrockets, or are they buying it for a totally different reason? Are they buying it as an insurance policy, a hedge against a world where everything else goes sideways? The answer to that question? Well, it just might define the next decade for all of us.